Your marketing team is in Asana, while your dev and product team is in Jira, and you have a big visibility problem in between. Sound familiar? In this video, I'm breaking down what Asana's native integration does well, where it falls short, and how Unito fills in gaps if you're looking for a more reliable, enterprise-grade, two-way sync solution. You all know that I love Asana. This is a comparison video. This is not a bashing of what Asana can and cannot do. I'm just relaying the facts. I'm giving you my recommendation based on what I've seen personally work at scale so that you can make the best decision for your team. So let's get into the demo. First, I'll start with Asana's native integration. What's nice about this is that it's Asana's first app that allows for a two-way sync, and it's also compatible with Jira Cloud and Jira Server. If you're interested in something like data center or service management syncing, then you're gonna want a different solution, but I'll have more on that for you shortly. Let's take a look here. I have just an Asana project that I've set up. I also have a project inside of Jira. I've simply called this one JA Board. We have a simple Kanban style where I've got an issue. When we click into the issue, I brought in our start date, our due dates. I have some labels here. I have the priority, and then I have the assignee. One thing that I will point out is that you'll see the assignee go in and out depending on what side I update it from. That's simply because the users are not the same. We have a Marquis at Cirface.com on one side, and then we have a Marquis at ThinkDitto inside of Asana. And so you'll see the differences between the two different solutions. Before we start, we're actually going to need to go and configure our data sync settings inside of Asana by clicking on the app and then going to our data sync settings tab. I'm going to head over to customize, go to apps, and I'll click on add. And we have Jira Cloud here ready to go. I'm going to add it into my project. And there we go. The app has been added in. And because I'm already logged in, I've authenticated, in this case, Jira. Now let's go back and click on Jira Cloud. And from here, we'll click on our data sync settings. Here we can select our Jira project, the issue type, our task sync direction, and then our field sync direction. And lastly, we'll have to map our fields. So let's do that now. The project that I've created is simply called the Jira to Asana demo. You'll notice that I have to select an issue type. So I have to select one in this case. And so to be clear, it's one issue type per project. With the solution I'm going to show you later, you can actually map multiple issues rather than just having to choose one. But in any case, we can go on and choose how we want our tasks to sync. Again, we can select a one-way. When a task is added to Asana, we can create an issue inside of Jira. We can do the opposite, where an issue is created in Jira, create a task in Asana. In this case, we're going to keep the two-way sync selected. As you can see, we also have an option to run it manually if we wanted to. So we're going to select the default two-way sync. We can also select to import existing issues from Jira if we want to. Notice we can't do that with Asana. That point we'll come back to later on. Next, we'll go in and actually map our task fields and issue fields direction. So again, we're going to keep it on our two-way sync option right here. We could go from Jira to Asana or Asana to Jira, but I want to show you what this looks like in real time. From there, we can map our different fields. So inside of Jira, we have our summary, which is our task name that is going to sync over to Asana's task name. Now you're going to see a couple of things pop up here as I'm setting up these sync settings. We can either send it to an Asana field. In some cases, we will be required to send the Jira information to a new field inside of Jira that is created here automatically. You do not have to go and create these custom fields. They will be created when you select these settings. So I'm actually going to keep it on task name, but if you didn't want to do that for some reason, if you simply wanted to see the summary information inside of Asana in another way, we could sync that to a new field. But I'm going to keep it on task name. Our description, we'll go to description, due date, status will come over, and the status in this case, what it will do is it will allow us to, as the issue is moving from to do to in progress to done inside of Jira, it'll reflect that inside of this Jira status. So in this case, it is creating a new field for us and it's mapping there automatically. Priority will also do the same thing. It'll map to a Jira priority field. Now we can go back in and we can select additional information. I'm going to select my assignee here. Then I'm going to go in and select the reporter. And it's going to ask for the Jira reporter field because there is not a reporter type field inside of Asana. Then I can go in and set my flag here, which is going to map to a Jira flagged field inside of Asana. And then I'm going to set my start date as well, which will go to a Jira start date. Because as we know in Asana, we have a start date and a due date, but they're not separated fields. They're one date field where we can assign a start date and then an end date. In this case, I'm also going to sync over my comments like so. You'll notice there are a couple things missing from this. We don't have subtasks here, and we also don't have attachments. So straight out of the gate, if you're looking for subtask syncing to maintain hierarchy between your projects and your tasks and issues and subtasks, and even want to have your attachments synced over, this is not the solution for you. But if you need basic syncing, this will get you there. So let's go in. I'm going to save and close, and then we'll actually see what this looks like in real time. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to close this out. We'll notice we have all of our different fields created here. So we have our Jira status, our Jira reporter, start date priority, and our Jira flagged option for all of our different tasks that will eventually sync here. So let's go and create one. I'm going to call this from Asana. I'm going to add the assignee here, my due date. Jira status, I'm going to put it to in progress, see how it behaves. The reporter, I'm going to make it me. The start date, I'm going to make it last Friday. The priority here, I'm going to set to high, and I'm going to flag it as well. Rules are running, okay? These are not rules that I created. If we go and take a look at the customize field here, we'll see that based on the sync settings that we set up a moment ago, we can now see that we can create a Jira issue when a task is added from Asana. We didn't have to do anything else here. One thing I will say, we'll notice this. So I mentioned in the sync settings, we cannot bidirectionally sync our attachments. You can send them from Asana to Jira. You cannot do that the other way. What is interesting about this is if you wanted to have any additional actions appear when a task is added on the Asana side, you can do that, okay? I'm not going to update any of those, but let's go back and let's take a look the other way. When an issue is created inside of Jira, we can create a task. I'm going to keep all of this untouched. So just so you can see what the relationship looks like and how it behaves. We've already mapped all this information, so we don't have to make any other changes here. But what's interesting is when you go and add, or try and add at least another action, you can't really do much else inside of here, okay? We can create another task, but that's really about it. There's no other logic that we can add in here. So let's back out and let's go and see what this looks like inside of Jira. First off, we've got our little card here. We've likely seen this before. It tells us exactly what's going on in Jira. It tells us what the issue is called, but let's go over and have a look at it now. So here we have that issue that was created. So let's click on that and see where it takes us. So we have our issue here called from Asana. All right, so let's go back to our board here. We can see it's in the in progress section, which is what we expected. Okay, we can see when we click in here that we have a due date. The start date information did not pull over from Asana. Okay, we can see the priority is high here as well. And we can see that it's now flagged and there's our status. So it has pulled over this information. Let's go and add a comment from Jira. Let's go back to Asana, see what this looks like. Comment has been updated. So let's do a comment from Asana. See how this behaves. And there we go. We have our comment from Asana. All right. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in, I'm going to add an attachment so we can see what this looks like. And the hope would be that if we have an attachment on the Jira side, it's also updating inside of Asana. But as mentioned earlier, it's not actually going to do that. What we can do instead is when we have an attachment from Asana, we can add it here with a caveat. Okay. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a minute. So there we have it. We've got our attachment. The Asana side has updated that. And so you'd expect that when you go over to Jira, you're also going to see that attachment inside of Jira. So let's see for a moment what happens. So there we have, there's a comment on the Asana side. 15 seconds ago. I wonder what that was. Let's refresh it again. 20 seconds ago, same comment. Let's refresh it again. same comment. So it's recognized that something has happened inside of Asana. In this case, that was my attachment that I just put in there. It's going to link me back to the Asana task, but it's not actually bringing that attachment in here, okay? What we'll need to do is go and create another task. So I'll call this one from Asana to, because we set up the rule that when the task is created, it will pull over the attachments. In this case, the task has already been created, so it's not recognizing this new attachment here. So we've got this rule running. I haven't filled out anything else here. Okay, there's our attachment. It's going to add it to our Jira issue in a moment. All right, we're going to see a pop up with our Jira issue. There it is right there. So you've got JA3. Now let's go over to JA3 and see what that looks like. There we go. We have our attachment here. It looks great, came from Asana. That's what we expected, okay? And so let's go back just to make sure, and we'll look at our JA2 for a second. There we go, still no attachment, okay? And so in this case, what's actually happening is rather than creating a two-way sync between Jira and Asana, what it's actually doing is creating two separate automations. And we saw them inside of Asana. We can see a rule that when a task is created in Asana, it goes to Jira. And on the Jira side, when an issue is created, it goes back to Asana, okay? And so these two tasks are not connected. They're not synced in actuality. They are going in opposite directions. This means that you're not really syncing, you're creating a copy, right? And so when you're creating copies in this case, that can introduce risk. You can get sync errors, you can get duplicative tasks happening, you can get information not populating properly. And if two people are working in the issue and the task at the same time, we don't really get a sense of where the source of truth is. That's one of the issues that can be introduced. So we've done the Asana to Jira side. Now let's go from Jira to Asana and see exactly how this behaves. So let's go create a new issue. I'm going to call this from Jira. Let's go and create it. And let's go in. I'm going to set myself as the assignee. Labels, I don't have any labels or tags right now. Let's set the priority to high in this case. I'll say looks good. And then I'll set my due date and my start date. I'll also add an attachment just to see what this looks like. And then I'll also go in, create a child issue, which is known as a sub task. There we go. Let's create that. And let's go back over to Asana. Here we have it. So it came in, it's called from Jira. We have JA4 here. And so there we go. We can see our card there. We can see that there's a comment. So let's quickly refresh. And so again, we can go back to Jira. This is great. If I update this, let's call this update, right? This should update inside of Jira. Let's do a quick refresh. So the task or the summary name should update shortly for us here. Here we have our subtask. But as we can see, this subtask also has not come over. So we can see from Asana subtasks right there. And then let's go in. Right now, this is in the to-do section. Let's change the status to in progress. And we'll change the original from Asana to done. And let's see what happens on the Jira side. So we're making changes. Both teams are working in different spaces as we would expect it. And so we'd expect that there is that one source of truth. We understand what each other is doing so that there are no conflicts. And so let's go in. We've got our original from Asana. Okay, so I updated the status here. There we go. I updated it to done, which is great. All right, let's refresh this because it should be moving it over to our done section. Awesome, it's done that. So let's go and just double check what this looks like on the Asana side. It shows done, but we haven't actually received a done task, right? Like this task is not completed, which is what we would expect. And then we also changed this to update a while ago. There you can see the summary there has been updated. Our subtask did not sync over from Asana, right? And then from Asana 2, were there any other changes here? I don't believe there were any other changes. And so you can start to see what can happen. I have 3 issues, 3 tasks here, pretty simple here. But when we start getting into more advanced cross department functionality or collaboration, this can become pretty complex. And so you never want to be second guessing what's happening. You never want to be going in and having to fix things. As mentioned right here with the assignee, right? It's going to pull some things. It's going to change some things because it's not truly creating that two-way sync. Another thing that this is doing is, as you can see with the Jira status, we have our in progress done, but it's not actually doing the things we need it to. In the Asana side, we want to maximize visibility. So traditionally we would have a to do, in progress, and done section like so. And we'd expect and hope that as the status is updated in one side, this is also being updated inside of the other side. And so we'd expect that, on the to-do side, this is now in the to-do stream, in progress, and so on and so forth. But if we wanted those actions to now take place inside of Asana, we're going to have to go and build in that logic. So I'd have to go back in to customize here. I'd have to go and add a rule. And then I would call this, what would that be? This would be Jira status is changed. We'd want to check that the Jira status is set to do. And then we want to do this. We'd want to move it to the to do section. Then we'd create another branch. Otherwise, if Jira status is set to in progress, right? And so on and so forth. Not the date, but the actual status itself. And so we'd create another branch for done and tell it that when it's marked complete, we would want it to be completed. But then we also have to do the inverse. We have to say when it's incomplete, we need to move it back to another section and remove that completed status. So there's a lot of work there to think about what needs to happen so that everyone can remain informed. So hope this helped to see what the Asana and Jira native integration looks like. It's great if you have a small team, or you need to be informed of what's happening from one side to the other. Maybe the marketing team in Asana wants to be informed of what's happening with the dev team inside of Jira. I think it's great for that. You get your little inline card inside of Asana, and so you can be kept informed. Now that we've seen how Asana's native Jira integration works, let's talk about how Unito handles true two-way syncing. First, let's answer the question of what is Unito? Unito is a simpler way to integrate your different tools powered by live two-way sync. It's fully configurable. There's no code. I'm not a developer. I'm not an engineer. There's true two-way sync straight out of the box. So I love that. And it also is expandable to different enterprise platforms. So let's take a look at what some of that can look like. It extends to all your different business tools. So on the software development side, you can connect to Jira, you can connect to GitHub, Azure DevOps. It allows for syncing between Jira Service Desk, Service Management, as mentioned earlier, any of your work management tools, Confluence included, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, anything in between. If you have a tool and it has an API, we can connect to it in some way, shape, or form. So let's take a look at how Unito works. On one side, you want to think about any container you have. A container can be a task, it can be a project, it can be a portfolio. But you're basically taking that container and you're looking at the different fields that you want to sync over to the destination, a new place. Whether it's Jira software, you're mapping projects and issues. Google Sheets, you're matching the sheet with different rows, or something like ServiceNow, where you're mapping your container and your work items to a table and your different records. And so on one side, let's look at the project level first. You can sync over project level information, in this case from Asana, and the tasks within, including due date, priority level, and sync it over to your destination container. In this case, we can enable that two-way sync back and forth. We also have the ability to pull over project level information from a portfolio as well. And so here we can have project level information, due dates, descriptions of projects, synced over to our secondary tool here, and map it to the corresponding fields. And if you're watching this, you're wondering what security looks like, I've got you covered. Unito is SOC 2 Type 2 compliant. It is GDPR ready, and nothing is actually stored in the platform itself. It's simply set there as an aggregator to move your data back and forth. Nothing is stored on your servers. There is a temporary holds there that is encrypted as your data passes through Unito, but nothing is actually kept there. So rest assured, your data is safe and nothing is actually being stored. Now that we've seen how Unito works, I want to reiterate that Unito is not an automation tool. Okay, you won't find your standard if this, then that type of automation flow here. Unito is a real-time, two-way data sync that is built from the ground up to keep Jira or any other tools that you have, and Asana speaking the same language. What also sets Unito apart is that it supports subtasks, epics, rich text formatting, attachments, and even lets you map multiple Jira projects to one Asana project, which is huge if you're running integrated campaigns across teams. And another nice thing is you can control the direction of flow at the field level. For example, if you want a priority to flow from Jira to Asana, but not the other way around, you can do that and then have more control over all of these different levels. So let's go ahead and build out the same flow using Unito. When you come into the Unito dashboard, you're going to see a few things. There's different guides and templates you can use to start building your flow. You can connect your different tools here inside of Unito. And if you take a quick scroll, you'll see all of those and more that I mentioned in the earlier walkthrough. But when we go to our dashboard, I'm going to click on Create Flow. And in this simple 5-step walkthrough, it's actually going to walk us through exactly how to build this flow right inside of the platform. So we're going to connect our two tools first. And so, I've actually gone in to Jira, I've cleared out all of our previous issues. I've gone into Asana and I've cleared out all of our issues and tasks as well. I've actually created a brand new project inside of Asana. There are no apps connected to it. There are no rules. So you can see I'm starting from ground zero here. All right, let's get into it. I'm going to start by connecting my tools. So on one side, I'm going to say where I want the sync to originate from. In this case, it doesn't really matter, but let's just select Jira first. So here I have Jira Cloud as an option, Jira Data Center, Jira Server, Service Management Cloud, Service Management Data Center, and Service Management Server. So if you have any of those in your Jira stack, these on-premise different options here will allow you to work behind firewalls and get around different security restrictions that your company might have around integrating different tools. So lots of control here, lots of different options for you. Because I'm using Jira Cloud and we want to make sure that this is like a one-to-one comparison, I'm going to select the same thing. It's connected to my account. It's going to look at issue types, okay? And then in the project, I'm going to select, it's going to be Jira, I think it was, there we go, Asana demo. We're going to select that. And our secondary tool, of course, is going to be Asana. I've already got it connected. And the project we're looking for, I believe, is Jira. What do they call it? Asana Unito. Perfect, there it is. And we've got our two tools connected here. Now we can set the flow of the different tasks and items that we want to push across. So I can set this to be bi-directional, so two-way sync, or I can select one or the other. I'm going to obviously keep it on two-way so we can recreate the same scenario. Now, as mentioned, this is not an if this, then that type of automation tool, but you can set certain conditions on either side in either tool so that Unito's only looking for tasks, issues, epics, projects, portfolios that match that criteria. So that's what I'm going to build here for us. So this simply says in Jira Asana demo, connected to Jira Asana Unito demo, if an issue is in Jira Cloud, inside of that project, the status is open, so not completed, right? And the creation date is or after March 7th in this case. So it's giving me some buffer time. So if there are any existing issues inside of Jira, it can give me a time frame for when I want to pull that information. If I wanted to, I can remove this line here or this condition by dumping it in the trash, and it will sync over all issues from the beginning of time. or the beginning of this project creation inside of Jira. So that's one thing to note. It can pull over all of your backlog or your historical information as well at the click of a button. We can then add new rules to say if the assignee is so-and-so, if the component is so-and-so, if the epic is so-and-so, but I'm going to keep it open for us right now. Then what we wanted to do is we wanted to create a matching task in Asana in the place that we determined, and we want to keep them in sync. That's the key here. It's going to keep them in sync. It's not creating a separate task. We want to set the default section to do in this case. So it's already taking care of that thinking for us around how we want those tasks to move. Then on the other side, inside of Asana, if a task is created, okay, and the status is open and it's created after this date, and we can again do the same thing. If the section is in to do, let's say on the Asana side, then we want to create a matching issue inside of Jira Cloud and send it to where we want to, and we can have it be a task or an epic in this case. So let's go and confirm that. And then we move to mapping both the fields and the direction of flow of all of our different fields. And so we can map it manually if we wanted to only select certain types of fields, but I'm going to suggest we just keep mapping automatically on, and you'll see exactly what it does for us. So as it's thinking there, we can see straight out the gate, we have so many other options for syncing here. Here we have subtasks. Number one, first up there, we've got a two-way sync between Asana and Jira in this case. Our sprint start date on the Jira side would match the start date of our due date field inside of Asana, and that is a one-way push because in this case, there is no start date inside of Asana. Again, it's the one due date field. Issue types can go two ways. So if we had a status inside of Asana, it would map back to Jira. And what you'll notice is we have a couple of cogs here or gears. And so when we click on this, it will allow us to then have multiple actions based on the field that is selected or mapped here. So in this case, to do it in progress, we'll map to incomplete. Okay. But if we did have additional statuses, we can choose how we want them to be reflected on the, and then done can be mapped over. If we wanted an additional action to happen, okay, so we wanted another type of status, or we had another field that we created inside of Jira, we could then have it act in a certain way when that connection is made. So that multi-level kind of mapping is another great use case for switching over to Unito. Then the same is true with labels, right? On one side, we have labels, and then in Asana, we have tags. We can't sync these with the native integration, but then we can go and add other values as well for labels inside of this Unito builder as well. The last one is on the summary side. So we can add Jira issue numbers to our Asana task. And so when we create the issue, we have, I think in my demo was like JA 1 through 4. We can also have that happen inside of Asana, and it's optional in this case. Attachments also sync two ways: due date sync, comments, descriptions, and links to issues can all sync to the description there. If we wanted to, we can then go and add an unlimited amount of fields and map them to wherever we wanted. Okay, so if we wanted to have affected versions, components, created at information, description, footer information, issue IDs, issue type, anything we really wanted, we can then map it over to Asana in the completed at, created by, description. We can have task type. We can have any of this information mapped over to Asana. And of course, the more fields we create, the more options we have. Okay. And so again, I'm going to keep it pretty simple here because I don't want to add too much complexity to this demo. Let's go and confirm these changes. And now we're ready. All of our checks have been made, done. And let's go and let's launch our flow here. And so auto sync in this case is enabled. Let's launch our flow. There we go. So it's starting to sync for us here. Okay, we have auto refresh on. So this is always working in the background. And depending on the level of subscription that you have for Unito, this can happen instantly. This can happen every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes. Just depends on what you need this to look like. All right, so let's go back over to Asana in this case, and let's see what it does. So I'm going to create this. I'm going to call this from Asana. I'm going to set the assignee as myself, the due date. I'm going to add an attachment here like so. And then we have Asana description. I'm going to have some subtask information like so. I'm going to assign that to myself. There we go. And then we have an Asana comment. All right, let's comment there. That rule is running. Let's go over to Jira and let's see what's happened. So there we have our from Asana task here. We've got our due date, which is in the past. In this case, we've got our subtask that's now come over from Asana. There we go. And we have our Asana comment as well as our attachment. What you'll notice here is that even though the users were different, in the first example, we have Marquis at Cirface on this side, and then in Asana, we have Marquis at Think Ditto on this side. It's recognized that those users are the same people because it's been mapped already behind the scenes. If you noticed before, when I was using the native integration, it was removing the user because they weren't exactly matching up. So now let's go over here and let's add description information. We've got this little hyperlink here that's bringing us back to that Asana task created by Unito. And so we can say Jira description info on this side. Let's save that. And let's go in and we'll add another child issue. So we'll call this Jira subtask 2. Let's create that. We are going to then change this from to do to in progress, and let's send a comment over from Jira to Asana. There we go, quick refresh. All right, so there we go. We have our Asana task. It's been updated. So we have Jira description information. We've got our link back to Jira right there. We've got our secondary subtask, and then we've got our comment there from Jira. And so what this is doing, as you've seen, it's allowing for that information to be centralized, right? What is the source of truth in this case? Unito is the source of truth. But what it's doing is rather than creating two separate tasks that are passing each other and kind of like updating each other on what's going on, we have one instance of the task that is connected via our inline information here. So we can click over to Jira. We can see what's going on as I'm working on this inside of Asana or inside of Jira. Everyone is being updated on the progress on both sides. And there we have our completed task on the Asana side. It's in our done section for us already, and everyone is being kept informed. No one is wondering what's going on. Did this actually happen? Is this the most up-to-date information? Unito has taken care of all that thinking for us. Let's break it down side by side from a feature perspective. You've seen what the Asana native integration looks like. You've seen what Unito looks like. When it comes to two-way sync, Asana is a little bit limited. There are use cases for it, which I've shown you, but if you're looking for a true enterprise grade two-way sync, then you're gonna wanna look at Unito. Because as you've seen, if you wanna bring over subtasks, the native integration will not allow you to do that. It also won't consider what your hierarchy looks like of your different Jira projects, forgive me. It won't consider what epics look like. There's no on-premises support, and so if you have service management or data center, there's no support for that currently on the native integration. And then as far as field level flow mapping and syncing goes, that is not currently possible in the Asana native option. You're going to want to look at Unito there. And as you saw, Unito also handles all of your historical tasks. So you can go back to the beginning of project creation to sync over all your information or migrate over to another tool. So here's another way of looking at it. When it comes to Asana's native sync, if you are an Asana enterprise, you want a free solution, this is the tool for you. If you just need basic issue tracking for your marketing team, native integration. If you're okay with some manual configuration or, manual syncing along the way, native's going to be just fine for you. But if you need things like being able to manage multiple Jira projects or maintaining project structure is important to you, so epics and subtasks, you need field level sync control, or you're using Jira Server, Data Center, or Service Management, then Unito is absolutely the tool again. So you can click the link in my description to go check out what Unito has to offer, or you can scan the code on this screen. So just to round it all out for you today, I've shown you a lot of information today, but whether you go with the native solution or you bring Unito into your organization, the goal is the same, right? It's always the same: transparency across your teams, clarity across your teams. But if you're tired of your teams living in silos and need a tool you can trust to improve visibility across those different platforms, it might be time to look at your integration stack more strategically. I hope you like this breakdown. Hit the like button. Please subscribe for more workflow optimization content. I'm going to be bringing you more content like this. So leave a comment if you want to see this type of content, and how Unito can work with your other tools around Asana, HubSpot as well. I'd love to show you what HubSpot and Asana and Unito can do together. But as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.